Hello. Excuse me. Hi, guys. How's everybody doing? Let's see who we got in here and say hi to some people. Hey, Amanda. Hey, Mike. Hey, Crazy Mama. Hey, Blue. Hey, Laura. How's everybody doing tonight? Jeanette, hello. Hello, MK. Good to see ya. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Come in, get comfortable. Sit down. Give me just a second because I'm going to cough again. Hold on. Okay, so StreamYard's glitching, so that's wonderful. It shows that there are 0 people watching, which I know is a whole lot because I'm chatting to y'all. Hey, Tony, how good to see you, babe. How you doing? All right, so before we get started, let's have a word from our sponsors, shall we? Okay, if I can find it.
And Kai, when you're on Jen Lou's channel, what do you do with the like button?
Smash, smash, smash! Yeah.
Yeah, it's always giving me the business. Hello, Cement Shoes. Good to see you. Thank you, Mike. I appreciate that. Hello, Princess Megan Elsa. Mrs. Arnold, hello. Hello, hello, hello. Hey, Joe, what's up? Amelia Sparkles. Hi. All right, you guys. So, what I thought we would do tonight is, hey, Emily, guys look great. Oh no, Princess Megan Elsa. I know I could call you Princess Megan, or I could call you just Princess, or I could call you Megan Elsa, or I could call you Princess Elsa, but I like to call you Princess Megan Elsa. I like to use the whole name. That's the part that gets me too, MK. It's the face he makes at the end. Yeah. That's my favorite. It's good to see everybody. Call me Princess K. Happy Thursday. Hope everybody's week has been going good. Hey, Jenna. I am so tired and I don't even know why. I think that that live yesterday that was not even a live. Hey, Quinny, it was just a video, but I'm telling y'all, that freaking video took out my soul. Hey, Minnie Mo. Yeah, man, I don't even know why. And yesterday when I was watching it with you guys, seriously, I don't know why I was so nervous. I only watched that video. I didn't watch it all the way through. Like I would just check, as I was putting it together. And, yeah, so there's that. All right. So I kind of wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about. Oh, thank you very much. Oh, thank you guys. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I did want to talk. Hey, Jessica Cat. I wanted to talk a little bit about the video, just briefly, really quickly. Thank you, Crazy Mama. Thank you, Jenna. Thank all of you guys. You're so sweet. One of the things that I wanted to, hey, Crystal, one of the things I wanted to talk about with respect to the video is you guys might have noticed I didn't put in a lot of any cell phone testimony, GMC testimony, OnStar, all that crap. I didn't do any of that. And I didn't do any of the forensicing. And the reason why I didn't is because, quite honestly, the testimony and the cross-examination were incredibly lengthy. And for me to be able to clip it in a way that made any type of sense was just like impossible. So I said, I'm not going to put it in. But you guys, I think, get the gist. And the other thing I wanted to talk to you guys about tonight is, so I know that 3 of the jurors have spoken. Is it 3? It's James and then 2 other women. Now, the 2 women that spoke out with James, they were all 3 of them, if I'm not mistaken. They were all on the Today Show. And the Today Show is very uppity because it's NBC. It's a network. The networks are all like this. They're very uppity when it comes to using their content. And the thing of it is, they don't come right out and put out a copyright strike. What they do is a copyright claim. Those are a little bit different and kind of a pain in the butt, and most of the time are not successful in appealing them. It's very difficult to sometimes prove fair use because it's kind of subjective. And, like if you were to, like the video I used from Law and Crime, clearly I just used clips, right? And, I added things to it. So it was transformative and it wasn't just me, like, just, so that's the problem. So I wish that I could, hey, faraway eyes, hey, everybody coming in. I wish that I could play the video of all three of them giving the interview together, but
I can't.
thank you, Andy. I can't. So I'm just going to play the one from Law and Crime, which I thought was actually really good. It's a 30-minute video. I think it's pretty in depth. Shout out to Law and Crime, because they don't get uppity about you using their footage or even their interviews. And when I watched this the first time, you know what I realized? It's Anne Jeanette Levy is interviewing him, and she does a really, really good job. She asks the really, really good questions, and I like that. But what I have to say is, overall, just listening to the jurors' interviews, what I've come to realize is I greatly underestimated the jurors. And I know we talked about like the notes, right? Hey, NorCal Jim, good to see you. Angela, hey, good to see you too. Everybody, it's so good to see everybody. But we all kind of underestimated the jurors, right? We talked about the fact that they couldn't take notes, and I thought that it would make it difficult for them to recall testimony, etc., right? Well, James in this video explains about that, which I thought was really, really fascinating. And it made me take a step back and think about the way that I cover trials. I am very used to seeing trials conducted in a certain way. This one, the way that it's not the way that it was conducted, that's not even the right word, but just some of the things that took place in the courtroom I had not seen before. Protocols, procedures, etc. I mean, obviously I've seen 11 billion objections. Hello, we all sat through the Johnny Depp trial. We know the Depp and Heard defamation trial. So yeah, we're used to objections. But what isn't used to is there was sort of a casual atmosphere, and I'm not used to jurors not taking notes. I wasn't used to that. And so it made me really think about my approach and the way that I cover trials, and to be a little bit more open and recognize that different courtrooms do it differently. Obviously, different judges and different states. But what I've noticed is when I am watching trials, like, for example, there's two trials going on right now. One is out of Wisconsin, and it is the obsessed ex-boyfriend killer. And the judge, if you guys are watching that at all or just checked in, excuse me, a little bit, if that judge looks familiar to you, it is because that is the judge that presided over the Kyle Rittenhouse trial. Okay. And then the other one is a retrial, and it is out of Florida. And it is this ice cream truck driver is being retried from the case was like in 2013, and it resulted in a hung jury in 2020. And so now it's a retrial. and essentially he was robbed, and while he was driving his ice cream truck, and he was injured pretty badly. And the allegation is that he sought vigilante justice but targeted the wrong people, and so they're retrying him. And that judge is the same judge who, if you guys watch the Travis, is it Scott Travis or Travis Scott? I always get it wrong. And he's out of same judge from Florida, the really nice one that the guy kidnapped his ex-wife. They were going through, or had been divorced recently, and he kidnapped her. And he had gone back and forth 11 billion times pre-trial whether he was going to be representing himself or an attorney. And he started the attorney, or started the trial, excuse me, started the trial with an attorney, and then they put the victim on the stand, which is his ex-wife. And right as it was about to be time for cross-examination, in fact, they were going to a break, and his attorney stands up and informs the judge that his client has decided he now wants to represent himself, which was very clear throughout the testimony, throughout the cross-examination, that really he was re-victimizing her. That's all he was doing. And it was disgusting. And it's an unfortunate thing that occurs, and it's perfectly legal, and it's awful. And I really wish Trevor Summer, thank you, Emily. Thank you. I could not, I'm worried, well, I'm going to say Travis Scott. Shmita! Who knows where I brought that up from. But anywho, that's the same judge. But I really like that judge. The problem I'm having with the judge from Kenosha, or, well, is it? Yeah, it's Kenosha, I think. Anyway, the Rittenhouse judge, is anytime there's an objection, whenever he rules, you get a speech. And it's not like my speeches. It's worse. You know how sometimes I be answering, and as my kids say, that I give a Miss America answer. He gives whatever that equivalent is, but of a judge, and worse. Whatever is extra, what's more annoying than a Miss America answer, whatever that is. Hey, ATS News, good to see you. Whatever that is, that's what he does. And it's very, you're just like, come on, get to the point already. And they're hi, Elise, and they're always, there's too much arguing. And I just think it's like he forgets he's talking, and then he's got to do not even like when your laptop or your phone or whatever, goes to the lock screen, and all you got to do is just click it a little bit, or click your mouse, and the screen comes back up. No, homeboy has to do a total, a hard reset. And it's so annoying. Oh, have you, Mrs. Arnold? Yeah, it's too much for me, and I don't appreciate it. So I'm having a difficult time, keep just not rolling my eyes so hard that I see the back of Alice's brain. Which, speaking of Alice, just while we're waiting for everybody to come in, and I just want to I have the thing ready to go, but you know how my hey, Vanessa A, hey, M5678, and Elizabeth Ross, good to see you. You know how my internet's been wonky or whatever. I'm just letting it load a little bit so we don't have some buffing and all those annoying interruptions, because it drives me nuts. But anyway, Alice, for the whole, for the last couple of weeks of the trial, was protesting, and she wouldn't sleep in the bed with me. It's hurt my feelings. She was sleeping in the living room, but everybody will be happy to know she has forgiven me. She is currently out like a light on the bed, right where she needs to be with me. And hey, Munster Mash. So yes, that is good news for me, because she was kind of low-key hurting my feelings. Okay, if I had feelings, and that is. Anyway, all right, so let me add this to the stream, and we're going to start with James. The other thing I wanted to talk to you guys about tonight is Griffin. Jim Griffin gave an interview to Law and Crime. Creighton Waters gave an interview to Law and Crime, and the Poot didn't really give an interview, but he was speaking to the Senate, and he was talking, and oh, thank you, Vanessa. And we're going to play that too. Okie dokie artichokes. All right, here we go. Let me push play. Let's see. Let's give him closed captions just in case. All right, here we go.
5:30.
5:30. Okay.
Yes.
When you were first called up for jury duty, did you realize it was going to be this case?
So I wasn't positive, but we were given a questionnaire. So a lot of those questions kind of pertain to the case in some way. So I didn't know for certain, but I did think that it was going to be this case.
When you finally got to court and you realized it was, what kind of were your thoughts?
I don't really think I had any thoughts. It was just, I was there to do my civic duty, and I really didn't think that I would be chosen. I had heard that there was 900 some people that were given, the questionnaire and everything. So
Isn't
out of
he
900,
just
I didn't really
adorable?
think that I'd be chosen.
It's just cute as a button and smart as a whip, and I love it.
Talked about around here, or was it something that was just kind of something that happened? And I don't know. What is your take on that?
I think that
Also, I'm not sure what happened with this interview and why I don't want to be critical. So this is not critical. I'm going to give a compliment sandwich. Jeanette asked really great questions, and they were questions we wanted to know. I wish she would have been mic'd while she was asking those questions. And excellent job on getting James here to talk. And Jeanette, you did this is a great interview, Jeanette. I just wish I wish you were mic'd. It's really difficult to hear you, Miss Levy. All right, here we go.
that it was talked about a fair amount, but I actually work over in Charleston, and I've been up in Clemson at school, so I haven't really been in the area.
Oh, really, Jeanette? I didn't know that.
Years.
Well,
So,
Dr.
I mean, it's
Phil
something
really
weird
loves the
about, but
copyright
it's not
claim,
something
so
that
I can't
was really-
show that, y'all.
I have so many
Sorry.
other things going on. It's not something that I dedicated a lot of my time talking about or paying attention to.
You said you went to Clemson? Is
Yes.
that right? Oh, okay. So you graduated?
Yeah.
Okay. Can I ask how old you are?
22.
Oh, okay. Oh my gosh. So you're around Paul Murdoch's age.
Yeah. Well, I would have been the same age as him in 2021, as far as whenever he passed away.
Wow. So let's talk about the verdict. We've heard reports. You guys deliberated for 2 hours and 50 minutes.
So
I went
hard to
upstairs
hear
last
her.
night to figure out what was going on, and somebody said, "Yeah, we asked them if they wanted dinner, and they said no, we'll be done in 10 minutes." So it went fairly quickly for a 6-week trial. Can you take us inside the room a little bit?
Well, I will say that whenever, we had asked if we wanted dinner, we were actually rounding up our last few questions that anybody had. So it wasn't that we already had an answer. It was more so that we knew that the questions that we had answers to. We just wanted to talk through them and make sure they made sense. So we just needed that extra 10, 30 minutes. I think it was about 30 minutes that we actually took. And it wasn't that, we had already had the decision, but we knew that we were right there at it.
So the whole 2 hours and 50 minutes, what went on, like in the beginning, like just going through the instructions, or?
Well, we had a pretty good idea of what the instructions were just because the judge read them to us. But I would say when we first got in there, what was important to us was just to see where everybody was at and make sure if everybody was on the same page. Maybe we just need to talk through things, make sure that it all makes sense to everybody. But we did have a few that weren't on the same page. So we did like an anonymous vote at the beginning just to see where everybody was at. And once we found that out, we kind of just opened the floor for anybody, whoever had questions, and then we would talk through those. We had the evidence in the other room. So if we had questions regarding a certain thing, we were able to refer back, and we just went one question at a time. We didn't want anybody to not be able to say anything, so we did take turns speaking. So nobody was talking over anybody. If anybody left, we made sure to wait until they could come back. We didn't want anybody to be left out or anybody to miss any piece of information. I think that's all.
I feel like the answer
So
to this is
it
yes,
sound like it
but
was
now I
something
can't
else.
remember in what capacity.
Like,
I think more so than somebody being dead set on one thing or the other. We all, I think, were very good in taking all the evidence and not jumping to any conclusions, but rather taking all the evidence and seeing where it led us. Whenever we got to the end and there were some people that weren't convinced, I don't think it was so much that they knew that he was not guilty as they just weren't sure yet. They might not have known answers to certain questions, So that's when it really took that 2 hours to kind of walk through something they might not understand, go back to the evidence, go back and see what somebody said about something, and answer those questions for those people. Like I said, it wasn't that they knew that he was not guilty, but they just weren't sure, and they
that's
needed
right.
the answers to those questions, and we were able to get those.
So it was like a 9-3 vote, the first vote.
Yes, it was.
Okay. And then slowly, how many votes did you take?
We took one at the beginning. We, like I said, went through all the questions that anybody had, and then at the end we took another vote. And we not only took that other vote, but we went back through
I can't
beginning
believe
to
you.
end
Hold on, I
about
don't
all
want
the
to
details
interrupt
and
you,
the facts,
James. You're
just to make sure that, you know, somebody's story.
super cute and super polite. So,
Like in the beginning.
I remember the dog. I remember that officer who testified, and yes, he is he was the canine unit, and I feel like he wasn't there an incredibly long time. I do think that if I'm remembering correctly, he did help. He located some shells, I believe. And what was I going to say? What I'm surprised about is that he got on the jury. Now, I can see how the prosecution would want him, right? But I can't see how the defense wanted him. And the only thing that I can think of is that the defense may have been out of strikes. And yeah. I mean, yeah, they would have known about it for sure. I'm just, yeah, I guess. I mean, I think he was impartial. Once I heard how they deliberated, he was far more articulate than the first juror that gave an interview. And I think that was just, hey, Brittany, good to see you, babe. And I think that was just because that juror was nervous, and you know, it's harder to be the first one. Hey, April, good to see you. So yeah, here we go.
Like just going through the instructions or?
Well, we had a pretty good idea of what the instructions were just because the judge read them to us. But I would say when we first got in there, what was important to us was just to see where everybody was at and make sure if everybody was on the same page. Maybe we just need to talk through things, make sure that it all makes sense to everybody. But we did have a few that weren't on the same page, so we did like an anonymous vote at the beginning just to see where everybody was at. And once we found that out,
I remember this juror.
we kind of just opened the floor for anybody who ever had questions. And then
I remember this now. I remember this very distinctly, Jeanette, now that you say that. I remember when the judge did call his number, and they had a discussion with this juror. I didn't know he was a man. I couldn't remember. I mean, I know that they were answering and stuff like that, but I didn't. Can you come clean mine, crazy mama? My husband made chili, and I'm just going to leave it at that. But yeah, now I totally remember this chain of events. Okay, cool. All right, here we go. Let's not interrupt James.
We had the evidence in the other room.
Cute.
So if we had questions regarding a certain thing, we were
so
able
much
to
better
go back,
to be smart.
and we just went one question at a time. We didn't want anybody to not be able to say anything, so we did take turns speaking. So anybody was talking over anybody. If anybody left, we made sure to wait until they could come back. We didn't want anybody to be left out or anybody to miss any piece of information. I think that's all.
Yeah. So it doesn't sound like it was contentious at all.
I think more so than somebody being dead set on one thing or the other. We all, I think, were very good in taking all the evidence and not jumping to any conclusions, but rather taking all the evidence and seeing where it led us. Whenever we got to the end and there were some people that weren't convinced, I don't think it was so much that they knew that he was not guilty as they just weren't sure yet. They might not have known answers to certain questions. So that's when it really took that 2 hours to kind of walk through something they might not understand, go back to the evidence, go back and see what somebody said about something, and answer those questions for those people. Like I said, it wasn't that they knew that he was not guilty, but they just weren't sure, and they needed the answers to those questions, and we were able to get those.
So it was like a 9-3 vote, first vote.
Yes, it was.
Okay.
So yes, recliner detective, I saw that Dr. Phil had one of the jurors on, but Dr. Phil, loves a copy. Well, it's not him personally, but his company, they love a copyright claim. And that's not the same as a strike, but they're kind of a pain in the butt. And it's just easier to avoid a claim if you can. And yes, I also agree. I'm going to say, I've already forgot how to say this name. Let's see. Dimite Nobis, right? Dimite Nobis. Crap, you have to remember. He gives me hope also for the upcoming generation. Like, this is like the generation that will be let me see. How is it? All right. Dimite. Thank you. Dimity. No, I'm not going to call you dimwit. Dimity. Thank you. I'll remember it again. I'm usually good at that kind of stuff, but who knows what's going on with my brain today. Anywho, he does give me hope for the next generation, because this is the generation that's going to be taking care of me when I'm old, and I feel better if there's more of like him.
And then slowly, how many votes did you take?
We took one at the beginning. We, like I said, went through all the questions that anybody had, and then at the end we took another vote. And we not only took that other vote, but we went back through beginning to end about all the details and the facts, just to make sure that, you know, somebody's story didn't differ from somebody else's. We were all pretty sure that we knew what had happened, and we knew who had pulled the trigger. So then we took a vote at the end, and then we took a moment to gather ourselves. We wanted to make sure that everybody they knew what they were going to say as far as what they thought and what their vote was going to be. We didn't want anybody to have any questions. We didn't want anybody to feel nervous about what they were saying or that they weren't sure. And we wanted everybody to make sure that that's what they said, because that's how they felt.
Hey, Carolina Moon, I think he works in does some kind of construction, I think, recliner.
Obviously, this was a 6-week trial. It was supposed to be 3, and you weren't allowed to take minutes.
Yeah, it was very tough, but I will say that everyone in the jury pool, they paid very close attention. That was actually one of our concerns towards the beginning, was not having anything to, you know, take down notepads. But in the jury room, we were able to have paper and pens. So if we had any questions, that's kind of where we would write down our questions, and we saved them all the way until deliberation. A lot of times those questions were answered throughout the trial, so those questions didn't make it to deliberation because they were answered by another witness or somebody else. But we were able to write back there, so we would just have to, you know, wait for one of those 15-minute breaks and then jot it down real quick. So that's kind of how we got through that, of not having anything to write it down.
That's really interesting.
See, now that is a good process. That is a really good process. Let me speed him up just a scotch, you guys, because just a scotch, just a tiny bit. We're still going to be able to understand him, but I'm having a very difficult time. When I was doing all the clipping, I was listening to everything at, you know, double, like 1.75 or 1.5, you know, most of the time. And now it sounds incredibly slow to me. And it was too much. I couldn't do it. Hey, T, good to see you, babe. All right, I'm going to push play. I got to let the dog out, so I'll be right back. I'll be in chat, though, okay?
What were some of the questions people had? I mean, were there some things that the 3 were thinking, did they have the same questions, or were they just things they couldn't remember? Can you give me an example?
So I think that one of the questions were regarding kind of the gun situation. I think that there was maybe a couple people that weren't very familiar with firearms. So it was, and I completely understand, it's a little hard to understand how you can match a casing to a gun if you don't have that gun. And I think it was important to, you know, realize that they weren't matching a casing to a gun. They were matching a casing to another casing that had been shot by the same gun. And we knew that the gun that shot one of those casings had been seen by one of the witnesses that Paul was shooting that gun with his friend. So then you know that both those casings had been cycled through the same gun, and that casing was at the crime scene. So that's how you're able to place that gun at the crime scene and know that it's a family gun.
When you got out there and you know, did you look at him? What was that like?
So throughout the entire trial, one of the things that I wanted to do, just because I felt like it would benefit me, is watch both sides, both the prosecution and the defense, and see what their reactions were to certain things that were said. So my eyes were constantly going from prosecution to defense to the witness. You know, I wanted to see everybody's reactions and how people were taking things, what their responses were. So whenever we got out there to, you know, express what our verdict was, I wanted to watch and see how the defense and the defendant reacted. So I know that I'd heard somebody say, that was in the audience that we never looked. But I know that for me, I looked at the defense. I wanted to see what the reaction was.
Was there anything that stood out?
I think that the only thing that stood out to me, and it wasn't shocking to me, but was that there was no reaction. It was just a straight face.
The kennel video, how important was that to you? And was it to you? Because to me, it seems to be the biggest part, or at least one of the biggest pieces of the state's case.
I think it's a very crucial piece, and I think that it's incredible timing as to when they were able to get it, and I think it's incredible timing on Paul's part. I don't think that anyone would have ever known that he was down there if it wasn't for that video. I think that there's a lot of evidence that points towards Alex, but I feel like that does solidify it. He can't, deny that he was there at the point because there's a video that places him there. I think that it speaks a lot that somebody that couldn't speak, somebody that couldn't be a witness, was able to be a witness even after they had passed away.
I keep saying that the little detective, gathered a piece of evidence to help in his own murder investigation.
Right.
Unwittingly, he was just trying to take a picture of or a video of Cash's tail.
Right.
Were there other pieces of evidence that you thought were really critical?
I think that every piece of evidence was critical. I've heard a lot about when was the point that you really felt like, you were going to sway one way or the other. And it was very important to me to not make that decision prematurely. So I would say that I never made a decision until after both closing arguments. After I knew that I had all the evidence, I felt confident making a decision, because I think that if you make a decision before you're able to see all the pieces of the puzzle, you may have jumped over, you may have gotten in front of yourself. I think that for me, I am familiar with firearms. So being able to place both of those guns there, and although it was not, the shot shells were not a match to either of the shotguns, it was very interesting that one of the shotguns that happened to be one of Alex's favorite was missing. So that was kind of important to me. It was important to me that they could place both those guns there based off of the matched markings on the shot shells and spent casings. I'd say another piece of evidence that was important to me was his own time on the witness stand. It was just, there was a lot of things that you were able to gather based off of what he said, how he said it, how he was reacting.
Did he ever make eye contact with you? I kept seeing him look over. I didn't know if he was looking at just a few of the jurors, or did you ever?
So, like I said, I was constantly looking at prosecution, defense, and the witness on the stand throughout the entire trial. Being able to make eye contact with somebody is, I don't know why, but I'll make eye contact with people a lot, especially during the trial. And it was something that I noticed that he very rarely ever made eye contact with me. And I don't know if it was on purpose or if it was just because I always sat all the way on the end. I was kind of away from the rest of the jury once we lost a few alternates. But that was something that I noticed, is just that we didn't make very much eye contact.
Interesting. Did you see tears from him? A lot of people, I saw them sometimes, but obviously I'm either watching on television or I'm in the courtroom and his back was fed to me.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see tears?
Yes, I did. I know that some people may have said that he did or didn't, but whenever like I said, I watched a lot of people. There was 6 weeks worth of time where I was just watching people and listening to people, and I would say that there were several times that he was crying. Whether they were genuine or not, I don't know, but I would say that he was crying at certain parts of the trial.
Did you believe anything that he said?
I think that he is. I think that he's good at being able to talk to people, and I think that part of the way that he is able to be so good at talking to people is that he's convincing. And I think that whenever he's convincing himself as well. And I think he's able to do that because he often meshes the truth with a lie. So I think that there was some truth, and I think that it's true that he did love his family. But I think that he also mixes lies in there, and what those are and where you differentiate those, I'm not sure. But I think that at times he was telling the truth, and I think at times he was lying.
Was there a specific point where you thought, obviously we know he was telling the truth about being down at the kennels, but maybe you felt obviously he didn't tell the truth when he talked about leaving the kennels? Because I remember a specific portion of that testimony where Creighton Waters asked him, well, what did you say to Maggie when you left the kennels? Or did you just get on the golf cart and go? Did you catch that when he said things like, well, I would have said, if you were leaving the kennels, I would have said. Did you?
Right. Well, he was saying, I can't remember what I said, but I would have said, yeah. I know exactly what you're saying. He said, well, I would have said bye or something, because I think they were trying to establish how much time he was down there after that video before he went back. And he was saying, well, I would have said bye. I wouldn't have just hauled back to the house. Again, I forget what your question was originally, but.
Well, was there anything that's in particular that stood out about that? It was probably a bad question on my part. I just noticed that he got really quiet when asked about, well, what did you say to Maggie? Did you say bye, or did you he said something like, I'm out of here, or something like that?
I think that it was pointed out throughout the trial, well, particularly that portion of the trial, that there's a lot of things that he was able to remember vividly, and there was a lot of things that he was not able to recall. And that was something that I paid attention to, because some of the things that he could remember vividly are things that I wouldn't remember tomorrow. And then some of the things that he couldn't remember vividly were things that I wouldn't forget in 10 years. So and whether that's just a difference on what's important to who, whether him and I differ on what we would find priority to remember or what we would kind of, forget about. I don't know. I don't know every person in the world, but I found it interesting some of the things that he was able to remember and some things that he was not.
So was the testimony, him taking the stand, did that kind of...
That song's going to be in my head now, just so you know. Well, I got friends in low places. Excuse me. I can't sing, and I shouldn't sing, really. But I found that to be interesting because, usually it's me that will catch people's speech and the words that they choose to use. And yeah, I should not be singing. I'm glad you agree with me. But I found that incredibly astute of him because usually I catch that. And the part that I caught was more that he couldn't remember would have essentially been his last conversation with Maggie. And I can't remember all of the details of my last conversation with my mom because it was really but I remember it. And I damn sure know that the last thing I said to my mom was, "I love you, Mom. I'll talk to you tomorrow." Because that's how we always ended our phone calls. So I remember that. And the fact that he said, "Hey, butterfly kisses. Oh, I like it. Hey, Allie." So I think A, he would have remembered, but B, to say I would have said blah, 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 right? That is an interesting way to phrase it. It'd be more, I think the likelier thing, if you couldn't remember what you said, is to say what I said. Well, I probably said, "I love you, Mom. I'll talk to you tomorrow," because that's what we always said to each other when we got off the phone. You know what I mean? Not I would have said. Because would have said isn't that like a past participle? Isn't that what that's called? Where it didn't actually happen. It makes it seem like it didn't actually happen. Am I making any sense? Let me just push play and maybe my synapses will all fire and I'll be able to articulate that better.
Clinch it for you? I mean, you said you didn't make up your mind until the end.
Hey, Christy, welcome.
Mm-hmm.
Love new people.
Was that something major that really was part of your decision?
Like I said earlier,
Oh, Emily, I'm sorry for your loss. It's just, I remember it.
Whether one way more than other, I think that there were some things that you could kind of rely on a little bit better. Whenever he did get on the stand, I know that it was very abnormal. I've never been a juror before, and I've never sat through trial before, but I did know that the defendant taking the stand was very abnormal. I wouldn't say that at that point that sealed the deal.
Hey, Salty C,
I
good
just
to
took what he
see
said.
ya.
I tried to weigh it both ways. I tried to see if what he was saying and if it was the truth made sense, then that would make sense. But then I ran it the other way, and if what he was saying just didn't add up, then it didn't add up. So I tried to do that with each piece of evidence. I tried to run it both ways as to if it was true and if it wasn't true, if I could rely on it or if I couldn't, and then which one made more sense and which one, kind of how they were saying about the circumstantial evidence, did it all point to the same conclusion?
True
which one,
that,
whether it wasn't and wasn't reliable, which one points to the conclusion and fits the story better?
How important was Dr. Kinsey's testimony?
He talked about a lot and he's very knowledgeable. I would say that he was, a very big part of the case as well as, a majority of the team. I found it very interesting, some of the things that he talked about, just because it was things that I was interested in. I think it was very interesting as to how he walked through the crime scene, things that he noticed, things that he really, dug into, and things that really caught his eye. But, whether he was extremely, the biggest part of the case or something like that, I think that he was extremely important and definitely gave us a lot of good information.
Did you ever feel like the prosecution was getting way too into the weeds with financial stuff? That's something that we thought they were getting too into the weeds with. Did that bother you guys? Because sometimes you guys look a little bored when, not you specifically, but some of the jurors.
I will say that it's a whole new experience for me just for the last part of that question. So I don't think that I was really bored. A lot of times, maybe I was a little uncomfortable for sitting there for a while, but I was still interested. I thought that, it's a very interesting situation, very interesting case. But as far as for what your original question was, I don't think they got too far into the weeds because I don't know. That's a tough one for me to answer. It's all evidence, whether it was just for the motive. The financial stuff doesn't, it's not a factor on whether he was behind the trigger or not, to me. That was something they
See,
didn't
I
have
thought
to
this
prove. They
was
didn't have to prove
important.
motive, but they felt that it was important for us to, see that evidence. So anything that, in my opinion, anything that they put on the table for us to hear, it's important to hear because the judge has made the decision that that's important for us to hear. So I personally don't think that they got too far into the weeds, but somebody else may think differently than me.
Sure. Did you have any feelings about the lawyers on both sides? Did you think they were all good, or did you have any feelings on them about them?
I have a lot of respect for all of them.
That's
They all
true.
put a lot of hard work and time into the case. I think I would respect all of them. I don't think that I had a favorite. I think that some of them definitely, just had a different style of being a lawyer. And
True
being my
that.
first time, sitting in the trial like that.
Shit,
it was just
sometimes
interesting
I
to
sat
see
through it.
how each one of them, what angle
By
they
the time
took,
I
how
was
they
done
worked
with
through the
that
case.
video, I
So,
sat through it like
I
six
just
times.
I have a lot of respect for all of them for putting so much time and effort into the case.
Most of you went to the sentencing today.
Oh, we're going to cover that, CB
Yeah, so I
Cal.
think that a lot of us
We're gonna
retired
cover
last night.
it.
We spent a long 6 weeks. We weren't able to talk about anything for 6 weeks, and that all came to a point last night. I think that afterwards we all kind of decided that we'd made a very big decision,
Hey,
and we did not want
Diane-Marie,
to jump,
good to see you,
out
babe.
there and start talking to people. We decided that we just wanted to kind of chill out and go home for the night. Last night we decided that we were going to ask everybody. If nobody wanted to talk, nobody had to. If people didn't want to come to the sentencing, they didn't have to. But a lot of us did want to stand together.
Hold on, I want to show you guys something.
I will say that all the jurors
Just
were
real quick.
very incredible
Hold on.
people, and we all come from different walks of life, and we were kind of people. We decided that we just wanted to kind of chill.
All right, so see this guy right here with my mouse that I'm circling? So when I, oh, thank you, Allie. Thank you, babe. I will, I'm going to look at it when I get off of here. Thank you for sending me that. This officer here, and I didn't notice this the whole way through the trial, but bits and pieces I did, but I really, really, really noticed it, at the, when I was clipping it together. Initially, he was in plain clothes. He was not always wearing his uniform. It was only like the last 2 days of the trial that he was actually wearing his uniform. But and if I'm not mistaken, I believe that he started sitting there the day that after Alex's family got admonished because they were, touching him, and, his sister gave him the book and, hey, Mama Bear, and everything like that. So yeah, I think that well, listen, Emily, I probably wouldn't have caught it either if I didn't have to go through and clip all that crap. I told you guys the next time I do this, if you missed Teresa on Criminality's live last night, it was really, really good. We had a really good time. We got off into the weeds a little bit, mainly because of me, because I'm a distraction. Hey, Kathy, good to see you. And, but it was a really, really good live about the Idaho 4. But I was telling the girls that the next time I cover a trial like this, I am going to start the clips on day one. Day one. I'm never going to do this again. Ridiculous. Took way too much time. All right, here we go.
And go home for the night. Last night we decided that we were going to ask everybody. If nobody wanted to talk, nobody had to. If people didn't want to come to sentencing, they didn't have to. But a lot of us did want to stand together. We wanted to go there. We wanted to finish this out as a group. I will say that all the jurors were very incredible people, and we all come from different walks of life, and we were able to bond over the 6 weeks. So a lot of us, some of us had particular reasons why we couldn't be there. And it's not that anybody didn't want to stand together. We were all unified, but certain people just couldn't make it today. But as a group, we did decide that we wanted to come back today. We wanted to finish out the trial. And then we would go from there as far as talking to anybody, or, we wanted to make sure that everybody was comfortable with it. And
well, I hope he gave that juror that gave them all eggs a thank you note, because eggs are expensive.
I don't really think that, I was just there to hear what he had to say, but I think that Judge Newman did a very good job of, finishing out the trial. And I think that everything that he said was a very good representation of Judge Newman. And I think that he had
Were you surprised that Alec didn't say, I'm sorry for the things that I've done or anything? I mean, he said, I'm innocent. I didn't Did you have a reaction to that?
They're more expensive
I came
than
today to finish
gold
out the
where I
trial,
live. I
and,
think
you know,
that's
I definitely wanted to hear
everywhere.
what he had to say, if he had to say anything. I didn't think that he would say anything.
Everything is more
I think that
expensive now.
I thought that he may have felt like he had already said enough. You know, he had already said what he
Hey,
would or would not have
Pepper,
done.
good to see you.
So I didn't really expect him to say anything. Whenever he did, I took it with a grain of salt.
Your Constitution tie, tell me about that. I mean, why do you have a U.S. Constitution tie?
Well, I don't really own very many ties, but my dad has quite a few. So at the beginning of the trial, I wanted to be a good representation of the community and my peers. So I made it a point to, you know, be presentable and dress nicely every day. So, you know, every once in a while I'd throw in a tie, and this is actually one of my dad's ties, but I felt like it was very fitting for the, you know, trial. So I wore it several times throughout the past 6 weeks, and I felt like today, with the end of it all, it was a very good day to wear something representing our judiciary system.
Yeah. You're a snappy dresser. I noticed it every time I saw you in court. So
Oh, and Jeanette.
To show great respect for the court.
Hey.
Sometimes people don't always do that. James, is there anything else you'd like to add?
I think that I have quite a few things to say. I think that there was a lot of people that put a lot of time and effort into the case. I have a lot of respect for all those people. I think they worked very hard, and I think they worked very diligently. I think that some things were...
I don't have layer
I think
chickens.
some people were
I
put in
don't
some
even
tight
like
spots,
eggs, will
and they
be.
didn't want to overstep their boundaries, but they still were able to get their job done ultimately, and I think that came from a lot of help from Paul. I think that as the jurors, we also did have a tough 6 weeks. I think that a lot of credit from that would go to Faith. I think very many times throughout the 6 weeks, we prayed together. We prayed before we came out to give the verdict. I would say that that was a huge factor in us being able to sit comfortably with our decision.
So you felt like God was maybe guiding you a little bit?
Absolutely. I think that having clarity of mind and just asking to, you know, allow me to be able to hear what I need to hear.
Yeah, I mean, you saw some really horrible things. Did that affect you?
I think it would affect anybody, but I will say that whenever I'm sitting up there, I try not to think too much about myself, and I try to think about what I need to be seeing. I know that these are important images that I need to be seeing so that I can take in all the evidence. You know, there might be something that I see that may stick with me, and although it may be gruesome, it's something that has to be seen for Paul and Maggie. I also think that regardless, this is an incredibly difficult time for the family, and I hate it for all of them.
Were you impacted by Buster testifying at all?
Again, whenever I'm up there, I try not to think about myself or how I'm impacted. I just try to listen as closely as I can to everything that they're saying and retain as much information as I can, just so that I can have the most honest and true opinion that I'm capable of having. So, you know, I can't say how I was feeling in the moment or what I thought. I was just taking every single word that they said and trying to pick it apart and make it all fit together, and, you know.
Thank you,
just really
Diane.
retain
I
all that information.
appreciate that.
You're
Thank you
feeling
so
okay.
much.
I mean, just, and I'm saying, you know, it sounds like you're very mature for your age, for 22. I mean, these are some horrible images that you guys had to see. I didn't get to see them, but I can only imagine given what we were told was on the images. How are you feeling?
Thank you,
I
Dimity.
know you're probably still decompressing from this.
You know, we spoke earlier. I think that a lot of the jurors, we're going to need more time to just really get a grasp on that it's over. We're done with the trial, and now we have to get back to our lives.
Hey, Mary.
I think that it'll take a bit more time to really know how we're all feeling. But at the moment,
Welcome. I'm
you know,
so glad
secure
to
in my
have
decision,
you.
and
Thank
there were
you.
definitely some awful things that we had to look at and that we had to see, and some of those may stick with some of the jurors and all the jurors for a very, very long time. They were definitely not something that you see every day, and something that you hope to never have to see, or something that you hope never happened. But it's just going to, you know, take time for a lot of people, I'm sure.
Oh, CB Cal.
Do you feel like you have a clear idea of what happened that night?
I do, just based off of the evidence, and, you know, obviously there's some differing opinions from different witnesses and stuff, but I do think that being able to see all of the evidence, hear all the witnesses,
Hey,
and just
Kentucky
seeing
Lee.
where everything played out, being able to go out there to the actual crime scene itself, and you're able to see how close proximity, and you're able to see different little things that maybe weren't pointed out by any of the witnesses or any of the, you know, prosecution, defense. You're able to kind of picture it, and you're able to kind of see what happened.
I don't think so. See, they were talking about that. Jurors don't get the same
for him to go down there on the
like
golf cart.
offers that
I don't think that he went
you
down
know
there originally with
they
him,
don't get a
so, you know,
victim's
that's one of the
impact
parts of the truth
or
that he,
advocate. They don't get
I
an
believe,
advocate at
filtered in
all.
with
I should
most
say.
of the lie.
Do you think do you think it was true that Maggie wanted him to come and he said no? Do you think there was a confrontation about the pills? I mean, do you have any thoughts?
Well, that kind of goes to another question that you had asked earlier about him on the stand and things that he said. So that was one thing that I kind of noticed is he's up there and he's talking a lot.
Who,
Oftentimes
James
the
or
prosecution
Alec?
would just let him run with it. Whenever he started to say something,
They
they just wouldn't
should.
say much, and they would let
Gypsy
him
Mac,
build on
they
it and build on
should.
it. And whenever he was talking about whether she was going to come or whether she wasn't, he had mentioned that there had been prior testimony that anytime that she was going to be going to the beach, that she was going to be taking the dogs. So he used that, and he said that she didn't have the dogs, so she was obviously planning on coming
Not
back
that I
to
know of.
Moselle. But she was going to a doctor's appointment, and I know that you can't take your dogs into a doctor's office, and she's not going to leave them in the hot car. So I don't really think that proves anything. And they were also having work done down there at Edisto. You don't want your dogs running around the house.
Thank you,
Maybe you've got work
James.
going
This
on
is
down
what
there.
I
So there's
said.
just some little things like that that didn't really add up. You know, I felt like he was trying to put something in there to solidify his story, but really it was just kind of a little bit more questionable.
It's bullshit,
Do you think
James. Just
that
say it. You'll feel
he was
better.
using the hose in the kennel video, and he got the chicken from Bubba. I mean, do you have any thoughts on what you think happened?
He never should have taken this
you know,
stand in
we don't-
ATS, and no,
we
he
don't have a
shouldn't
dead
have.
set time on when everything happened as far as after the video. We know there's a period of time between whenever that video ends and whenever he picks up his phone at the house. So who I think that I hear a hose in the background whenever they're taking that video. And I know that Alec is calling for Bubba. So I do think that Maggie was probably washing out the dog pins. And I think that he was getting the chicken. And that was another part of his testimony is he was saying, you know, Bubba is running up to me. He's wanting to show me the chicken. He's wanting to give it to me. He's proud of it.
Hey,
But at the
Sunset
same time, you
Gazing,
hear him
good to see
call to
you.
Bubba 2 to 3 times in the video. It doesn't really seem like he's, you know, running up to him. It kind of seems like he's having to call him to him. And I know that I've got several dogs, and there are dogs that are happy and they want to run around with it themselves, you know. So just small things like that. Like I said, I was listening to every word and I was trying to just make it make sense. And there's some things that are just like, well, that doesn't really make sense with what I saw in the video, or that doesn't make sense with what I heard here, things like that.
Did he toss the phone out when they think he did that night?
You know, I'm not sure. I think that he had the phone at some point in time, and there's debate on whether it would turn on or whether it wouldn't. And we have no idea how he threw the phone. We have no idea whether he was holding it in his hand the whole time and had it turned off. We don't know, but it makes sense to me for him to have thrown the phone.
James, I don't want to keep you any longer. I really appreciate it. Anything else you want to add?
Do you mind if I ask?
Yeah, sure.
So do you think if he hadn't taken the stand, do you think like how did him testifying sort of affect things for you guys? Is it possible that maybe it would left? I mean, could you see it being a not guilty verdict if he hadn't taken the stand? I'm trying to kind of understand how that played into it. Did that like solidify things in your mind, or?
I think it was an aspect, and I think it was a part of the trial, but I don't think it was the make or break point, and I don't think that it was a situation where if he didn't take the stand, he wouldn't have been found guilty. I think that there was enough evidence there gathered by SLED and produced by Paul that it was there. He was there, and I think that we all, you know, had enough evidence there that whenever we went and deliberate, there was enough there whether he got on the stand or not.
Without the kennel video, do you think there was enough there?
I'm not sure because there was the kennel video. And, you know, like I said, I made my decision at the end of the trial whenever I had all the evidence. So, you know, I'd have to go all the way back to the beginning and forget everything I knew and then go without the kennel video to be able to make that call. There was a lot of evidence, and I just know that was a part of it and a crucial part of it. And I think that who it was provided by spoke a lot.
Did the Moselle visit take you more toward guilty or not guilty, and why?
So again, like I said
Yes,
earlier,
I saw that,
I waited
Angela.
until the
I was
end
like, Pooh,
to
why you fronting?
make my decision.
You
But
know you was
whenever
big
I'm at the
mad.
end and I'm, you know, thinking about all this evidence, there was parts that I noticed at the Moselle property that, you know, were evident to me that solidified my answer of guilty. There was a lot of question about. So there was a
Oh
lot
no,
of questioning
LFT, I'm
about the second
sorry.
shot to Paul, and to me, the way that it was described and the way that it was portrayed, it just didn't look right. But what did make sense to me, and something that I made note of before we went to the Moselle property, because I didn't know that we were going to the Moselle property, but I was curious, is that for one, I think that he would have been looking at Paul. And whenever we get out there, it's a very tight room, and there is about a 1 to 1.5 inch threshold at the base of that door. I think if he's looking at Paul and he's just shot a buckshot, which if you're not firm, it can rock you pretty good. I think he could have been unbalanced, and I think he could have tripped over that threshold, and that puts him on the ground shooting
Oh,
upward as Paul's coming
interesting.
out. And I think that makes
Hey,
sense to
Alexei,
me
serious,
for
good
the
to
angle of
see
the shot.
you.
Okay, and one more question.
Hey, Mallory.
Is this okay, Maya? Okay, why do you think he did it?
I don't think like that. I don't have the capability of thinking to be able to do something like that. So I don't think that I'd ever be able to answer why somebody would do something like that. I think that there is a lot of contributing factors that somebody could throw in. And we heard a lot throughout the trial but I still think there's more that we haven't heard, and there still may be more that nobody knows about. I think that it makes sense to do that, but I know that there's people in the world that don't make sense, and they do things without making it make sense. So I don't know that there is an answer other than that it happened and that it shouldn't have. I think we can all agree on that.
Well said. This dadgum widget popped up. All right, hang on. Let me, oh my gosh. Hold on a sec. My computer's all blaggy. Oh, here we go. Oh, that's not what I wanted.
The state versus Rich Alexander Murdaugh, defendant.
No, we don't need all this. Just stop that right now, Law and Crime. You're doing too much. All right, hold on. Let me get this other video of the poot. And then, because his is the video for the poot is really quick. And the interview with Randy is really quick. And then maybe tomorrow night I'll do the whatchamacallit, the interviews with Griffin, and because I think those are longer. And yeah. Let's see. Let's get to the poot. We'll go. You can be first this time, poot. All right, hang on. Let me share the screen. This is only like 3 minutes. What the frack? Hold on. No, poot. Just be patient. Let me turn your quality up a little bit because I don't know what's going on in that Senate floor, but you're a little fuzzy. Let me fix you. All right, here we go. Excuse me. There was something that somebody said that I wanted to, about that juror. Okay, so we were, it is interesting that he is related to law enforcement. Not only is he related to law enforcement, but he is related to, I believe that the canine cop that showed up was from Colleton County. And the thing of it is, y'all, Colleton County, thank you, Mama Stone. Welcome to the 51100 Club. Colleton County recused themselves from this investigation, which is why SLED was called in, right? So if he was with Colleton County, honestly, he was the first responder, and that's it. He was the canine unit, and I think what he was brought out there to do was to, if I remember right, he was supposed to be looking to see if there was a perpetrator, right? If they could find somebody, but then, So, but I'll say this: I don't think that Harpootlian or Griffin will waste their, they might try to bring it up on appeal, but it would really be a waste of time because the fact of the matter is they took this young man back into chambers. They spoke to him. And I remember this happening during jury selection. I remember them calling juror number 540 or 530 or 5 something, whatever he was. He said at the beginning, and I don't remember what he said his number was. But anyway, and they spoke to him in the chambers, and the judge agreed, prosecution agreed, and most importantly, the defense agreed. So they let him sit there. And the thing about it, the thing about juries is they don't expect a juror to never have heard anything about the case. What they expect is, oh, thank you, Mallory. You're so sweet. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. I like you a lot too. Seriously, like you a lot. Big like. Now I forgot what I was saying. Shit. My dedication needs to be staying on damn task is what it needs to be doing. What the hell was I just talking about? Oh, the idea is that even if the juror, it's very in this day and age, I sound so old when I say that. It's very difficult to find a juror who has not heard at least one or two things about a case, right? Because we see it in the news. What the idea is that they will not come into the courtroom. They agree that the only thing that they will base their verdict on is what's presented in court, not what they may have read, 2 years ago in a newspaper or a year ago in a newspaper, or online or whatever. That they will come into that courtroom, it'll be a clean slate, and the only thing that they will the only thing they will base their verdict on is what is presented in the courtroom. Oh, who did this? We got an Oprah? Let me see here. Oh, Will B, thank you so much. That's so sweet of you. I appreciate that very much. Thank you. I think that there are other trial errors that might have some potential, but I don't know. I don't know if any errors. I mean, you guys were here. We watched the trial every single day, and I watched the trial twice. Like I'd watch it during the day, and then I would watch it at night with you guys and cover it. And I'm not an attorney, so I can't answer this for sure. But to me, it didn't seem like any of the errors that may have occurred. I think the first one is going to be the situation with Creighton Waters asking Alec on the stand if he ever told SLED about the video. And Griffin objected, and it goes to, your right to remain silent, and you can't, a prosecutor cannot bring that up as evidence of guilt. You didn't say anything, therefore you must be guilty. But I think that if you take it in the context in which it was asked, there wasn't actually a specific date. And the fact of the matter is, Alec was interviewed multiple times by SLED, and he never said that he was down at those kennels ever. And so because he wasn't specific, I think that they're going to start there, but I don't know that that's going to really go anywhere. And the other thing, hey, truth teller, I appreciate it. Thanks for coming in, babe. Say hi to Charlie for me. I think that for Alec, what I'd heard is, and now I heard this on the interview room when the Satterfield attorney was talking, and he said some rather interesting things. Like, one of the things that he said was about Tinsley. Specifically, what he said was, he called Tinsley a terrorist. He said Tinsley is a terrorist. And I found the reaction in chat very, very interesting. And now there was over 1,000 people in that chat. So the chat was moving fairly quickly, but they did have it on slow mode, so it wasn't so terrible. I mean, I could keep up with it. But I found that I found it very interesting that he used that word and nobody really caught it. Because to my mind, and maybe you guys might think of this differently, but to my mind, being called a terrorist is not a compliment. Like if Truth Teller came up here and she said, that Jen Lou is nothing but a terrorist, I would not begin writing like my acceptance speech and who I was going to thank and all that, without these people in my life, this award wouldn't be, it's not an award. It's not a compliment to be called a terrorist. So I just thought that was, hey, Aries, good to see you. I hope you're having fun. That's not a compliment. And I would be, if I were Tinsley, I would be like, bro, what the fuck? But the thing that I found interesting that he also said is, now God help me, y'all, I cannot remember. I think it was Tony Satterfield that took the stand. After he got off the stand, after cross-examination, Harpootlian said something to him, something to the effect of, that was, you did a good job, kid, or something like that. Something very dismissive and sort of, oh, ATS. From me or from like the investigation, babe? I'm working on Stephen Smith. I need to put it all together for you guys. I want to have that ready by Sunday. Thank you, Aries. I don't feel like a terrorist, but anyway, he was really condescending is what he was, and it was very dismissive, and yeah, he was upset about that, which he's right, and he did say something to Harpootlian about it, like, don't, you know, I don't appreciate the way that you treated my, yes, thank you, Dimity. He was very condescending and rude, and the attorney said something to Harpootlian, like, you know, I don't appreciate the way you treated my client. He also had some stuff to say about Ronnie Crosby. And, you know, the thing of it is that Ronnie Crosby and Harpootlian, I don't know if you guys remember this, but when they were talking about, I do not think it was in front of the jury. I believe it was during Ronnie's in-camera testimony. And he was talking about having, or it might have even been, no, it was Tinsley. But anyway, Ronnie Crosby and Harpootlian know each other quite well. And I think that it's that the friendship door is likely closed. I don't think that Ronnie Crosby will ever forgive well, now, let me say that. He doesn't walk around with anger anymore. So maybe forgive, but he will never forget what Harpootlian did to him up on that stand. And I don't blame him. I would be livid too. And quite frankly, I probably would walk around with some anger for a minute. I don't think, hey, Elizabeth, good to see you. I don't think I would just be, you know, real quick to forgive. I might be walking around with, you know, anger at the level of audacity that Harpootlian is walking around with in his pockets. But let's hear from Harpootlian, shady boots, Harpootlian. Oh, wait, let me add this to the stream first and hear what he has to say. It's only like 3 minutes, so we'll get through it pretty quick. And then we'll listen to what Randy says, and then I'll call it a night because I'm tired. And I know that I think Brittany and Mallory are going to go live, and they've got some Murdoch stuff. So I want to hear that too. You know, I can't quit this trial. All right, here we go.
And by the way, the people that slept outside nights to get into the courtroom, get some help. Please, soon, okay? There's something wrong with you. I mean,
Alec Murdaugh's lead defense attorney.
Okay, I'm going to stop you right there, Mr. Harpootlian. And I don't want to tell you your business because you're an excellent lawyer, but you're not a good joke teller. If you have to pause and look around and then the laughter comes, you ain't funny.
Speaking on the Senate floor for the first time since the verdict, he discusses the criminal justice system and the threats he's received. I'm Anjanette Levy, and thanks for joining us here on Law and Crime. If you watched Alec Murdaugh's trial, you know that Dick Harpootlian is a very colorful character, and
there he goes with that dadgum
was
gun
on full display on the Senate floor yesterday in South Carolina. For those of you who don't know, he's not only an attorney, but also a state senator. In South Carolina, judges are actually elected by the General Assembly in the state legislature. He joked about his experience with Judge Clifton Newman, who presided over Alec Murdaugh's trial.
One of the criticisms
I love fried pickles.
against
so
the way that we elect and choose judges in South Carolina is that they'll be beholding to legislators once they get on the bench.
didn't happen in this case.
Do you think that happened to you in this case, Senator?
Trust me, okay? I've got a couple big black and blue marks on this rear end of mine that will confirm that.
Please don't. We'll take your word for that. You don't need to show us, but.
Harpootlian reiterated that he plans to appeal on Alec Murdaugh's behalf, and they believe that Judge Newman made some errors in his rulings, that they were legally wrong. He said throughout the course of the trial, people wrote to him by email.
No, I'm on
some were kind,
1.25, I
some not
think.
so much.
Most of it was very positive. A lot of it were people that were watching this in Germany or England or the Netherlands, or I mean, wacky. I don't know. They don't have anything else to do in those countries, but a bunch of people here also gave me suggestions on a daily basis what we should do or how we screwed up yesterday. But the folks that sent me you are a rotten piece of scum, and I hope you die of, let me clean this up a little bit, rectal cancer.
Bougie
You know,
ass.
they have a misapprehension of the system.
Harpootlian went on to discuss his role in the criminal justice system. He's been both a prosecutor and a criminal defense attorney. He also discussed those nasty messages that were sent to him, his co-counsel, and his staff.
They have a misapprehension of our justice system. While they're very familiar with the Second Amendment, they apparently haven't read the Fourth, the Fifth, the Sixth, or the Eighth Amendments that guarantee us the freedom, guarantee our freedoms of ourselves and our property. This is an oath I took 49 years ago, and I take it seriously. And by the way, my interest, you don't have to convince me you're innocent for me to represent you. That's not the issue. The issue is, can the state prove your guilt beyond a reasonable doubt?
I don't agree with the threats either.
Once you decide that position, you are free to do what is in your client's best interest.
Harpootlian also quoted John Adams and said that Abraham Lincoln, when he worked as a lawyer, represented at least 20 murderers.
I hope that's what he said.
He and Jim Griffin are representing Alec Murdoch in his financial crime cases. So this is not the last we've seen of either one of them. For Law and Crime, I'm Anjanette
I
Levy.
love the poot. Okay, let me just say this. Teresa keeps trying to take the poot from me, y'all. I don't know what to do about the situation because I love the poot, but I also love Teresa, and I really don't want to see this become an issue in our If he said 49, he's 70. Is he 72 or 74? That might make a difference in the math, because at 39 years ago, he would have been 33, which seems right. But if he's 72 minus 43, that would have been, minus 39 would be, or 49 would be 23 years. And that seems too young. Here's the deal though. I feel like, I know that not everybody, like the poot is not for everybody. And I get it. The thing I like about I like the poot. I like some of the things that he does. Now, let me just make this caveat as well. Even though I adore the poot, I don't adore everything that the poot does. Okay. He does say some really throwed off shit. And he's 74. All right. So let me do this math again. Okay. So we think, is it 49 years? All right. Hold on. See, if he said 49 years ago, he would have been 25. That makes more sense. Poot should retire and start a YouTube channel. And I'll tell you what, Poot, you come on my channel. Don't go over there to criminality. You can after you come to my channel first. I call dibs on the Poot. All right. So that is what, yeah, he had some comedic timing. I didn't have to do very much to the clips of him. Really. All I added was some thought bubbles, a buzzer, a band sign, and that's it. That's all I had to do. And he's a good, he just, it was going to be a difficult case. I don't know an attorney that would be able to overcome that kennel video. That kennel video was very, very damning, mainly because if Alec would have been, if he would have told the truth from jump, and it doesn't even matter what his reason was, whether we believe it was because he was paranoid and had a fundamental distrust of SLED, it doesn't matter. But I can tell you this, if Alec would have told the truth about that Kendall video, it would have taken an incredible amount of wind out of the prosecution's sails. That was very, very damning evidence. And had he been honest about it, it would not have been so damning. That's the sad irony. All right. Let me see about this. What old Randy says. Hold on, Anjanette. We're going to add you to the stream in just one momentito. All right. All right. Oh, well, geez, Jen, you got to do more clicking. You have to add and push play. Come on, girl, get with
Here
it.
on Law and Crime. For the first time since the guilty verdicts in Alec Murdaugh's double murder trial, one of his family members is speaking about the case and what possibly happened the night that Maggie and Paul were murdered back in June of 2021.
I agree with this,
Randy
Ellie.
Murdoch spoke to the New York Times and told the paper that he's still not sure whether or
Thank
not
you.
his brother pulled the
Glad y'all
trigger.
liked it.
Randy said, quote, "He knows more than what he's saying. He's not telling the truth, in my opinion, about everything there." He continued, "The not knowing is the worst thing there is." Randy Murdoch attended the trial several times and was on the witness list, but wasn't called to testify, telling the Times he didn't align perfectly with either side in the case, and that might be the reason why he wasn't called. Randy also told the Times that he respects the jury's verdict, but can't imagine his brother actually committing the crimes since he loved his family. He continued, saying Alex and he didn't spend a lot of time together, despite being only 2 years apart and practicing law together at the family's now defunct firm, PMPED. Randy was actually one of those law partners who confronted Alec Murdoch back in September of 2021 about the millions of dollars stolen from the firm and clients. Randy is now a partner at the newly formed firm, the Parker Law Group, and he says he hasn't spoken to his brother in nearly a year. For Law and Crime, I'm Anjanette Levy.
Wow. Nearly a year, huh? So let's see. That would be about what? April of last year? I have to say this, and I don't want to be this person, but I cannot help but make observations on the things that I see. I don't know how people are going to receive this, but can I just say that Randy's hairline moved during the trial? Like, I'm not talking about the way people's hairline or, your forehead, when you go up and down, it makes your scalp also moves. I mean, like, from day to day, his hairline was in a different place. And I it's just one of those things that I noticed. Okay. Cause they would flash over to him or pan over to him every so often in the trial. And like Tuesday's hairline was not the same as Monday's. Wednesday's hairline was not the same as Tuesday's. It was it was just, yeah, it was a lot. Oh yes. Yes, Shamita, I think, yeah, notice it's moving. His, yes, Angie, apparently they can't, it's just problematic. I have to look, Jeanette, I can't remember off of the top of my head about exactly when that phone call was, but let's see. The crime happened June 2021. Alec was arrested September of 2021. And a lot of those phone calls that I listened to and that have been played, I think were October, November of 2021. I actually think that John Marvin is the only one in that family that does not wear a hairpiece. Now, I did see Alec's new mugshot, and let me tell you something. For a person with his complexion and hair, even though they've shaved it, right? It's not quite orange and it's not quite yellow. It's that weird. Okay, so you know how the outside of a pumpkin is like that specific color, but that that orange, right? But the inside of the pumpkin is a lighter, sort of an orangey yellow. That's like what color the jumpsuit is. And I don't know if that means anything, if you get a different jumpsuit based on your location, I don't know how it works, but it is not working with his skin tone at all. At all. Indicted on July 22nd. But when did they go and arrest him? Because July 2020. Are you saying 22? Oh, okay, 2022. That's right. So yeah, but those calls took place in the jail, I believe, in the late part of October, November, somewhere in there. Okay, 2022. Like when you wrote 20, like for some reason, I don't know, I can't read numbers anymore. It's because I didn't do, it's too much of Putin the protractor, man. When he was trying to work that protractor, it's just hilarious to me. Just hilarious. So, yeah, it must indicate what jail there. Now, I will say this. I was watching a little bit of the Kenosha trial today, and the guy that was on the stand was the defendant's former cellmate. So, and he was still an inmate. He was a current inmate, and he was testifying. And y'all, his testimony was basically that he had a conversation with the defendant because the defendant one night was talking in his sleep. Right. Now that song is in my head. And then, but what he said in his sleep was it's real close to the Ghetto Boys still. You guys will be familiar with it. I know Tony is. It's from Office Space. It's when they attack the, is it the fax or the copier printer? I can't remember, whatever the hell that thing is. Anyway, it's that song. And it was something like die, like motherfucker, die, motherfucker, something like that. And whenever he, July 14th, 2022, there we go. I got it now, babe. I got it. So whenever he was testifying and saying that, the defendant, they pan over to the defendant to catch the defendant's reaction. Y'all, he said, what the fuck? Yeah, that's so the one with damn, it feels good to be a gangster. That is when what's his face is walking through the office with the drill or the it's not a drill, like the screwdriver thingy, but it looks like a drill. You know what I'm talking about? And he unscrews the door knobs and then unscrews all the screws from his cubicle and they all fall around. Yeah. That's the band Dope what, Amelia? The Copy Machine. Yeah, Office Space. Yes. From Office Space. Yeah. The name of the song is Still. It's from Ghetto Boys. I promise you, I have it downloaded. I listen to it frequently. Makes me feel some type of way, when I'm cleaning my house. And, just in case anybody rolls up on me, they know who they fucking with. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, anyway, so tomorrow we will go over what Mr. Griffin. Have you seen my stapler? That's my stapler. I'm gonna set this whole place on fire. I asked for no salt. There's salt. Milton. But I didn't get a piece of cake. I was told I would get a piece of cake. No, it's okay, Amelia. I don't know. It just came out a little harsher than I intended. I didn't mean it to be that harsh. I'm sorry, babe. I'm tired. I need to go to take my old ass to bed. But yeah, Milton is my favorite. That's my stapler. MK, I don't really like to talk about my flair. Um, so tomorrow we'll listen to Jim Griffin. He gives an interview to Law and Crime, and Creighton Waters does an interview, and I'm terrible, crazy mama. Dr. Kinsley talked to Law and Crime too, like after the verdict, right? I love Office Space yes, I love it. Love it, love it, love it, love it. Hey, Tia. Good to see everybody. I love Office Space too. Federal pound me in the ass time. Prison, that's it. Federal pound me in the ass prison. Good night, you guys. Yeah, if you could go ahead and stay late, I'm going to need you to finish up those TPR reports. So if you could come back and do that, and then come back tomorrow night to listen to Jim Griffin and Creighton Waters. Yeah, that'd be great. I'm going to need you to go ahead and do that. All right, you guys. 1 whole year, Tony. Yay. Oh, I love that. Tony has been a member for 1 whole year. Thank you, Tony, for being here for 1 whole year. See, I love that. Thank you so much for putting up with my ratchet, crazy ass for a whole year. All right, you guys, I will see y'all tomorrow, and we will go over. Oh my gosh, look at Amelia Sparkles too, member for 12 months. I like the whole speech that he gives the Bobs. Yeah, I come in about 10 or 15 minutes late to work, and I basically try to avoid getting caught. Just love it. All right. Good night, you guys. Good night. Thank you so much, Amelia and Tony. Thank you guys all for being here. Thank you for being members for a whole year and putting up with me, because I'm a lot. And I will see you guys tomorrow. All right. Good night, guys. Have a great rest of your night, and I'll see you tomorrow, okay?